Nobody expected a single Indiana Fever decision to spark this much conversation. Not because it was dramatic, not because it came with a press conference, but because it happened quietly and still managed to rattle the entire WNBA landscape. On the surface, it looked like normal roster business, expansion pressure, salary math, tough choices every team has to make. But almost instantly, fans felt something else was going on. Social media lit up, speculation took over, and one name kept popping up in every debate. This wasn't just about who stays or who leaves. It was about timing, about chemistry, about what happens when a rising team collides with league-wide change all at once. And the most surprising part, the player at the center of it didn't fit the usual free agency script at all. Because once the noise settled, the story went in a direction nobody saw coming. The pressure didn't arrive with a headline. It crept in quietly, hidden behind league announcements and technical language most fans scrolled past. But inside front offices across the WNBA, the expansion draft was already forcing uncomfortable conversations. Indiana wasn't immune. On paper, expansion drafts are about balance. Give new teams a fighting chance, spread talent, keep the league competitive. But in reality, they're about loss, about deciding who matters most when you're only allowed to protect so many names. And for a team like the Fever finally finding momentum after years of rebuilding, that pressure hit differently. Indiana wasn't just protecting players, they were protecting chemistry, a locker room that had started to click, roles that finally made sense. And that's where things got complicated, because expansion rules don't care about vibes, growth, or timing. They care about lists and limits. Fans quickly noticed something felt off. Conversations online weren't just about who might be taken, they were about who shouldn't be exposed at all. Some names felt untouchable, others felt risky, and a few sparked genuine confusion. Why would a team on the rise even consider opening the door to uncertainty? Behind the scenes, reports suggested Indiana was weighing more than talent alone. Contract flexibility, future cap space, long-term roster vision, the kind of chess moves fans rarely see until months later, and that's when speculation started creeping in. Some believed the Fever were playing defense, trying to outsmart the draft before it outsmarted them. Others felt the league structure was forcing unfair choices on teams just hitting their stride. What made this moment tense wasn't just the risk of losing a player, it was the timing. Indiana was stepping into a spotlight fueled by rising ratings, new audiences, and relentless scrutiny. Every move felt magnified, every silence felt loud. And the expansion draft turned from a procedural event into a test of identity. Who are the Fever really building around? What kind of future are they prioritizing? And how much short-term pain are they willing to accept to protect long-term goals? But just when it seemed like the expansion pressure was the whole story, another layer started to emerge. Because the reactions weren't only coming from executives or analysts, they were coming from the players themselves. What made this moment uncomfortable wasn't a quote, it was the silence. No press conference, no viral soundbite, just subtle shifts that fans picked up on almost immediately. Social media posts that stopped appearing, interviews that danced around questions instead of answering them, and body language that felt different once the expansion draft conversations went public. Players don't need to say they're unsettled for people to notice, especially in a league where chemistry matters as much as skill. When uncertainty enters the room, it changes everything. Suddenly, teammates aren't just teammates. They're names on a protection list, assets, decisions waiting to be made by someone else. Some fans believe the tension was unavoidable. Expansion drafts, by nature, force players into limbo. You don't know where you stand. You don't know if the future you're building will still include you. And for players who had just started finding rhythm in Indiana, that uncertainty hit at the worst possible time. Others saw something more troubling. They questioned whether the league had done enough to shield players from the emotional whiplash of constant movement. Reports claim that even veterans and players who have seen roster changes before felt the pressure differently this time. Not because of fear, but because of timing. Momentum was finally on their side. Fans began dissecting everything. A pause during a post-game handshake, a delayed response in interviews. Normal human moments suddenly became evidence in online debates. Was someone frustrated, disappointed, already preparing for a move? The truth is, most of it was speculation. But speculation thrives in silence, and the league's tight-lipped approach only added fuel. Some supporters felt the players were being asked to carry the emotional burden while executives framed everything as business as usual. That disconnect sparked backlash, not toward one person but toward the system itself. Why grow the game while destabilizing teams at their peak? Why push expansion without addressing the mental toll it creates? These weren't angry questions. They were uneasy ones. What made it more complicated was that no one could openly complain. Players had to stay professional. Coaches had to stay neutral. Front offices had to stay strategic. And that left fans filling the gaps with their own narratives. But just when it seemed like this was only about emotions and uncertainty, another factor quietly reshaped the conversation. Because the pressure wasn't just internal anymore. It was being amplified by visibility. This situation might have stayed behind closed doors if the spotlight wasn't so intense. Indiana wasn't just another team anymore. Every game was dissected, every quote clipped, every pause replayed. With record-breaking viewership and non-stop coverage, even routine roster conversations suddenly felt magnified. What used to be internal became public theater. Some fans believed that visibility changed how decisions were perceived. Moves that might have been labeled strategic elsewhere were now seen as statements about priorities, about loyalty, about who the future was really being built around. And once that narrative takes hold, it's hard to slow down. Reports claim that players felt the difference immediately. More cameras, more questions, less room to process things privately. When a team becomes the center of the league's attention, silence stops being neutral. It becomes suspicious. Media discussions didn't help. Analysts framed the situation in extremes. Either the team was protecting its future at all costs, or it was risking chemistry for long-term gain. Very little space existed for nuance, and that framing spilled into fan debates, where every decision was treated like a referendum on the league's direction. Some veteran voices pushed back quietly. They reminded audiences that growth comes with growing pains, that expansion is necessary, that no league scales without discomfort. But those perspectives struggled to compete with viral clips and emotional reactions. Meanwhile, younger players were navigating something entirely new: popularity without stability, attention without clarity, the pressure to perform while not knowing where you'd be performing next season. For some fans, that raised eyebrows. Should a league chasing momentum be putting its players in that position? Others argued the opposite, that this was proof women's basketball had finally reached a level where stakes were real, where decisions mattered, where attention brought consequences, and that maybe discomfort was part of progress. Still, the timing kept coming up. Momentum was peaking, chemistry was visible, and the expansion conversation felt like a pause button no one asked for. What made it more complicated was how differently players handled the moment. Some leaned into leadership, some went quieter, some focused strictly on basketball, and fans read meaning into every choice. But the most important shift hadn't even happened yet. Because as the spotlight grew brighter, so did the divide between how fans saw the team and how the league managed it. And that gap was about to spark a much louder conversation. Then came the moment that shifted everything. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't a roster move. It was a comment, casual, offhand, and likely meant to be light. But in a league where every word is dissected, tone matters as much as intent. And this one landed wrong. Within minutes, clips started circulating. Screenshots followed. Some fans brushed it off as harmless humor. Others felt it crossed a line, not because of what was said, but because of who it involved and when it was said. Context became the battleground. Supporters argued that the comment reflected locker room familiarity, that teammates joke differently than outsiders expect, that reading too much into it only fuels unnecessary drama. But critics weren't convinced. To them, it sounded like public shade in a moment that demanded unity. What really raised eyebrows was the timing. The league was already navigating expansion pressure, visibility debates, and rising expectations. Emotions were high, and in moments like that, even small remarks can feel amplified. Some fans believe the comment unintentionally fed existing narratives. The idea that certain players are protected while others are scrutinized. That veterans can joke while younger stars have to stay polished. That respect in women's basketball isn't evenly distributed. Media reaction only widened the gap. Headlines framed it as tension. Pundits debated whether it revealed deeper issues. Social platforms split into camps almost instantly. And once sides are drawn online, nuance tends to disappear. The player at the center of the moment didn't escalate it. No public response. No visible retaliation. That silence became its own storyline. Some interpreted it as professionalism. Others saw discomfort. A few believed it was strategic, choosing not to feed the cycle. Behind the scenes, reports suggest teammates tried to smooth things over. But by then, the conversation had moved beyond the locker room. It had become symbolic, about respect, about optics, about how women's basketball moments are framed and sometimes misframed in real time. What's often missed in situations like this is intent versus impact. A joke can be genuine and still hurt. A comment can be lighthearted and still carry weight, especially when fans already feel protective of certain players. And that's what made this moment linger, not because it was explosive, but because it was subtle. Because sometimes the smallest spark is enough. And as the debate cooled in one corner, it started heating up somewhere else entirely. What followed wasn't just debate, it was emotional. Fans didn't react like neutral observers. They reacted like defenders. And that's when it became clear this wasn't really about one comment. It was about everything that came before it. For years, certain players have carried the weight of expectations that go far beyond the box score. They represent programs, fan bases, eras. When one of them is perceived, fairly or not, as being publicly undermined, fans don't hear humor. They hear disrespect. Some fans believe this moment tapped into a larger frustration. The feeling that certain stars are constantly asked to prove themselves twice, once on the court, and again in public perception. So when a comment even sounds like it reinforces that imbalance, emotions spike. Social media made it worse. Clips were stripped of tone, captions framed intent, reactions outpaced facts. Within hours, the narrative hardened. Supporters began pointing to past moments, interviews, officiating debates, even media coverage, to argue this wasn't isolated. Others pushed back just as hard. They argued fans were projecting, that not every joke is a slight, that locker room dynamics don't translate cleanly to public consumption, and that constantly assuming bad faith only hurts the league's growth. But here, where it got complicated, even fans defending the comment admitted something felt off, not malicious, just poorly timed, poorly framed. In a league fighting for respect, optics matter, and perception can outweigh explanation. Some fans believe the league itself plays a role in moments like this. Inconsistent messaging, selective amplification, certain narratives promoted, others ignored. When trust in the system is shaky, every incident feels bigger than it should. That's why the reaction wasn't proportional to the comment itself. It was cumulative, built on years of conversations about recognition, whistles, media framing, and who gets the benefit of the doubt. Meanwhile, neutral viewers watching from the outside were confused. To them, the backlash seemed excessive, but insiders understood. Women's basketball fans don't just watch games, they guard legacies. And once that protective instinct kicks in, logic often takes a backseat to loyalty. By the time things cooled, lines had been drawn, not just between players, but between fan bases, between interpretations, between what was said and what it symbolized. And while the league moved on, one question lingered quietly beneath the noise. If a single comment can trigger this kind of reaction, what does that say about the pressure everyone is playing under right now? As the noise settled, something uncomfortable started to surface. This moment wasn't an outlier, it was a symptom. The WNBA right now is growing faster than its systems are prepared for. More eyes, more money, more attention. And with that comes something the league hasn't fully adjusted to yet: constant scrutiny. Every word is clipped, every pause is analyzed, every expression becomes a headline. Players aren't just athletes anymore. They're brands, symbols, and representatives of entire movements. That's a heavy role to carry, especially in a league where relationships are personal and locker rooms are tight-knit. What feels like casual honesty inside the game can explode once it hits the public stage. That's the tension no one likes to acknowledge. The league celebrates authenticity until authenticity creates discomfort. Then suddenly, everyone wants polish, media training, neutral answers, safe quotes. But that isn't how players actually talk, and it isn't how competitive environments work. There's also the reality that certain players are under a microscope in ways others aren't. Not always intentionally, not always maliciously, but visibility creates imbalance. The more spotlight someone has, the more carefully they're expected to move, even when others aren't held to the same standard. That's where resentment can quietly grow, among fans, among media, even among players themselves. At the same time, the league is asking these athletes to sell personality. Be relatable, be bold, be real, but also don't say the wrong thing, don't give anyone ammunition, don't disrupt the narrative. That contradiction is impossible to navigate perfectly. So moments like this become pressure valves. A single comment releases months of built-up tension about respect, coverage, favoritism, and who the league is actually centered around right now. And here's the part that rarely gets discussed. None of this is sustainable without adjustment. If growth continues at this pace, the league will need clearer lanes, clearer messaging, clearer expectations for players and fans alike. Otherwise, every small moment risks becoming a referendum on the league's soul. No one won this situation. Not the players, not the fans, not the league. What it revealed instead was something far more important. Women's basketball has entered an era where nothing happens in a vacuum anymore. And until everyone accepts that reality, the tension isn't going anywhere. What happens next isn't about one quote, one interview, or one reaction online. It's about how the league and its audience responds when moments like this happen again. Because they will. The attention isn't slowing down. Ratings are climbing. New fans are pouring in. And with that comes a louder, more divided conversation. The WNBA is no longer operating in a quiet space where comments fade quickly. Every moment now has an echo. That means players are walking a tighter line than ever before. Say too little and you're called media trained or fake. Say too much and you're accused of disrespect or hidden intent. There's very little middle ground left. Some fans believe this is just growing pains. Others think it's a warning sign. Both might be right. Growth always exposes cracks before it builds foundations. What's undeniable is that moments like this force clarity. They reveal how narratives are formed, who controls them, and how quickly perception can shift, sometimes without full context. A single soundbite can reshape how players are viewed for months. That's powerful and dangerous. For the league, this is a test. Can it protect player authenticity while also guiding the conversation responsibly? Can it allow personality without letting discourse spiral into constant outrage? For fans, it's another question entirely. Are we watching to understand the game or to pick sides? To celebrate competition or to search for villains and heroes in every exchange? Because once everything becomes a debate, the basketball risks getting lost. And yet this tension also proves something important. People care, deeply, enough to argue, enough to analyze, enough to feel invested. That's not a bad thing as long as it doesn't consume the players themselves. The next era of women's basketball will be shaped by moments like this, not by avoiding them, but by learning from them. The league is bigger now, louder now, more visible than ever. And with that comes a simple truth. Every word matters, every reaction matters, every moment adds to the story. The only question left is whether that story moves forward together or keeps pulling itself apart. This moment will be remembered long after the headlines cool off, not because it was explosive on its own, but because of what it revealed underneath. It showed how fragile perception can be in today's WNBA, how quickly context gets stripped away, and how fast fans, media, and even teammates are pulled into conversations they didn't ask to lead. No one walked away untouched, not the player at the center, not the teammate involved, and not the league watching it unfold in real time. For some fans, it reinforced existing beliefs. For others, it created doubt where none existed before. That's the power of modern sports discourse. It doesn't just report moments, it reshapes them. But here's the part that often gets missed. These situations don't come from bad intentions alone. They come from pressure, from expectations, from a league growing faster than its safety nets. Players are being asked to compete, entertain, represent, inspire, and speak perfectly, all at once. And when they slip even slightly, the reaction is instant and unforgiving. That doesn't mean accountability disappears. It means nuance matters more than ever. Because the truth usually lives somewhere in the middle between what was said, what was meant, and what people needed to hear. This wasn't just about one comment or one reaction. It was about timing, visibility, and the weight that comes with being part of the most watched era in women's basketball history. Moments like this will keep happening. As long as the league grows, so will the scrutiny. The challenge isn't stopping controversy, it's deciding how to handle it when it arrives. Do we slow down and listen? Or rush to judge and move on to the next clip? The WNBA stands at a crossroads where every moment shapes its identity, and how fans respond matters just as much as what players say. Because the league isn't just being built on talent anymore. It's being built on trust, understanding, and how we choose to tell the story. And this chapter, it's far from the last.